This radio show might make you cry, will probably make you angry, will most assuredly make you laugh, and is guaranteed to make you think. 3-6 Nation Radio, where no topic is too hot, no take is too cold, with Monica Livingston and Sean Parker. 3-6 Nation Radio, in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, 3-6 Nation Radio. I am neither Monica Livingston nor Sean Parker. Ivan Wohner here. It's great to be with you on a Thursday, the first cold Thursday of the year. Thank God I am beyond overjoyed at being here with you today. There's a lot of things that are going on. Let me celebrate Tuesday. Historical happenings. Number one, Virginia was a double-digit win for Governor Northam, which is fantastic. But more importantly, from a personal and civil rights point of view, 8 transgendered Americans were elected into seats across the country, from city councils to state, the state thing, to the federal Congress, to Board of Educations, and they're so pleased. I'm pleased because, and people ask me, why are you pleased at these changes? I am pleased because we are a better country when we are more represented in our legislature. The more different opinions and diversity that we can have, the better that we can hear from each other's sides and create a world that works for everybody. If you leave a group of people out from the conversation, their interest will not be represented. It's just how it works. We have a government that is of and for and by the people. We come with the assumption that everybody works together, we all put in our voice, and then we come up with the best solution. But you have to hear everybody's voice. So I'm very pleased. Specifically, I want to give a shout out to Danica Roem, who is, and I just found this out. I actually did a little bit of work with some Virginia electoral things, and so Danica's a very nice person. But I did not realize that Danica was also a heavy metal singer. So a lot of cool stuff. Not just diverse of identity, but diversity of experience and interests as well. Go America. All right, a lot of things happening today in 3-6 Nation. Some hilarious stories. I want to talk about football. We want, because it just keeps coming up, to talk about sex. We want to talk about the good kind and the bad kind. There's a lot of stuff going on. We're going to go to commercial. We're going to come back. We're going to dive into the news. We're going to talk a lot about philosophy, theology. I want to talk about a good congressman who did something that is quite unusual. We will be back in 2 minutes. 3-6 Nation. Brace yourselves.
Come on, hustle. Get your head in the game. Come on.
Are you setting the right example for your kids?
Are you even trying? The ball's down there. What are you doing? You need to get some confidence.
Come on, hustle up, get up there.
Reviewing last year, ad revenue has declined 15%.
Come on, get your head on straight.
Before your child's next game, ask yourself, how would you like it if they copied your behavior?
There are many ways which we can improve.
That's for sure. You need to get some confidence.
Positive Coaching Alliance has valuable tips and tools to help our kids perform their best while keeping sports enjoyable for everyone. Their development zone is a great resource for parents like us. Positive Coaching Alliance, creating better athletes, better people. Learn more at positivecoach.org/Fox Sports.
I love how USAA gives me the peace of mind and the security just like the Marines did. At one point I did change to a different company with car insurance and I was not happy with the customer service.
We have switched back over and we feel like we're back home now.
The process through USAA is so effortless that you feel like you're a part of the family.
I love that I can pass a membership to my children and that they can be protected. We're the Williams family and we're USAA members for life.
Call USAA today to talk about your insurance needs.
If you can play, you can play.
If you can play, you can play.
If you can play, you can play.
We are all
Champions.
We are all
Red Hawks.
Red Hawk.
For life.
All right, we are back, 3-6 Nation. Glad to be with you. Speaking of Miss Danica Rowan, there was immediate pushback on Twitter, as one would expect to happen. But there was one tweet that I just want to highlight because this came from Mr. Andrew Walker, Andrew T. Walker, who is, according to his Twitter profile, an ethics and policy expert, PhD candidate at the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, a husband and a father, believer in Christ, runner, athwart. I don't know what athwart is, but he's proud of it. And he asked the question, as a Christian, the nation's first transgender elected officials enters into American history tonight. What are you doing to prepare your children for this new world? This question supposes a lot of things. Number one, it supposes that we should be preparing our children because we have entered into a new world. Two, it supposes that there is a Christian perspective with which you should be introducing your children to the fact that we now have more perspectives in our United States Congress. And I take issue with that as a person who is very intimately aware of the perspectives of the religious right. I take issue with the notion that parents are supposed to teach and protect their children from reality. This is just a thing that happened. This is not a scary story. This is not, oh, if you be careful, they're going to come and steal you in your sleep. This is, we have a new elected representative from our country, for our country. So when we talk about that with our families, with our children, we should be just saying, hey, we have new people who are elected, congratulations. And very prominently, 500 retweets, 10,000 likes, people are going off on this man, Mr. Andrew T. Walker, and his question about introducing children to this brave new world, as it were. But the thing that I love, and the thing that really got me inspired, was when I started reading the comments, they were not what I expected. I expected to see a lot of anger and fear. I expected to see a lot of transphobia and religious polarism. Instead, the first comment that I'm reading says, I will be raising our child in this new world where he or she will be accepted and loved no matter what his/her sexual orientation or gender identity is. And then right after that, someone says, congratulations on the internet. Congratulations on the baby, internet stranger. And the reply is, thanks, we're really excited. It's just lovely seeing conversations of real people talking about acceptance and harmony on the internet as strangers in a world, in a place where we don't have that very often, especially under a question that could have been very inflammatory. I want to think about this as we talk in a broader spectrum of how we should be engaging with people on the internet. Later, I'm going to talk about the 10 rules of proper, healthy internet behavior, but suffice it to say this. We must treat people online the way that we treat people in real life, with respect, with an attempt to understand what they are trying to communicate and where they're coming from, by acknowledging the things about their arguments and their positions that are interesting, and by challenging the things that are not with sarcasm or with anger or with hatred, but with a genuine approach to say, how do we deal with this? And so I scrolled and scrolled and scrolled, out of the hundreds and hundreds of comments that I read on this page, most of them follow that same vein, and we are going to teach our children acceptance and love, and we are going to do as Jesus did and love our neighbor as ourselves and love God first. And I think that is a fantastic position to be teaching your children as a Christian. All right, moving away from politics. No. Moving away from politics, Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico was hit by a hurricane several weeks ago, months ago. How long has it been since the hurricane hit? No? Nobody? Nobody knows. It has not been that long. It's been about 2 months. The federal troops are leaving. Let me say that again. Federal troops are leaving Port. They're done. They're finished. They're done. They've done what they were supposed to do, and now it's time for them to go home. Except, you still have hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people who are without power, who are without water, whose homes are still destroyed. When we think about what happened in Hurricane Katrina, it took months, it took almost several years, I think, to get back to full New Orleans status, right? Hurricane Sandy, when it wiped out the entire Jersey Shore, I can remember a year later, there were still people who were fighting over insurance claims because they needed to rebuild their houses, because they needed to rebuild their homes, right? We have a situation that is still at its worst in that people have no food. They are cut off from the rest of the country. They have no running water. They have no electricity. And now we're taking away the support that we sent them to help in the first place. DC's favorite son, Jose Andres, has been going out of his way to feed as many people as he can. I read something, he was doing like 50,000 meals a day that he was providing just out of his own pocket, and then he went to FEMA to ask for some money. FEMA gave him enough money for 20,000 meals for a week. For a week. For a week. And they're like, well, contracting regulation says we can't help you anymore. And I think that's wrong. I think that's stupid, and I think that's wrong. But thank God for Jose. He has been continually serving as best he can. There's been a lot of corporations who have stood up to try to help out in Puerto Rico. And it should not be incumbent upon businesses to go out and give away their things, right? I'm a capitalist just like any other person who buys things. I think that businesses should be doing that. But our government is set up to do this protection, to do this safety. And so Tesla stepped in where the government didn't and is setting up electric grids based off of their super cool battery packs. And Amazon is using helicopters to fly in supplies and food and things like that. So there's a lot of actions that are being taken on the private level, and it's disheartening to see that our federal government doesn't have the same dedication to protecting Americans. All right, I talked a little bit more about politics. Last political story for at least 20 minutes. I want to talk about Mr. Rand Paul. Rand Paul is currently in the hospital. He has what appears to be 5 broken ribs and I'm going to mispronounce this, a pleural effusion. Now, broken ribs are bad. Broken ribs can happen all the time. 10% of all trauma patients suffer from rib fractures, okay? If you've ever been hit hard, you got that crack, you break a rib, it hurts to laugh, it hurts to breathe. He has 5 of them. He also has I'm gonna mess it up again, pleural infusion is the condition when inflammation and changes in pressure cause fluid to build up in the chest. Sometimes it can become infected. It usually resolves on its own. It does cause difficulty breathing. So, in a normal rib fracture situation, it can take up to 6 months to fully heal. You can probably do it faster. I know the NFL has certain treatments that they just give you, #steroids. I know the NFL does things to speed up that recovery process, but it's bones, and they have to heal. Mr. Rand Paul is in the hospital, and my best wishes go out to him because I do not like to see my fellow Americans in pain. And I asked myself, I heard the story, and I said, what would have caused Rand Paul to break 5 ribs? And I said, it must have been political, right? There must have been something he said or did that caused some kind of kerfuffle. And I was wrong. I said, well, maybe it was like, there's a lot of violence going on, and maybe he got into a fight tackling a child away from a moving train. Was not that. Apparently he was mowing his lawn, and his neighbor The man who invented the Thermacare wrap, you know what I'm talking about? With you wrap it. Man is loaded. That guy, who's in his 50s, I think he's like 59, they are neighbors to Rand Paul. And they've hated each other for a very long time because of the bushes, because of the shrubbery situation. Now, I don't know if you've had issues with your neighbor, but apparently this was the last straw, because Mr. Rand Paul was mowing his lawn, and our good friend the neighbor was having none of it, runs out and just tackles him, just takes him out. They throw blows. They're fighting. They actually get into a fight. So we have a senator and his neighbor getting into blows about shrubbery. And he breaks 5 ribs. I think the guy's arrested. Crazy this world we're living in. And so again, my pleas, guys, we can deal with civility and communication. It does not have to come to blows. Please do not be like your congressperson or his neighbor and start punching each other, all right? We can talk this out. We can work together. Whew. It feels good. Things have been going on. It has been a crazy week. It has been a good week. Just a little shout out to the St. Mark's Players. The St. Mark's Players are doing a play in January 12th through 27th called A Bright Room Called Day. And it's basically about 1930s Nazi Germany, right when Hitler gets elected. It starts on the night that Hitler gets elected. And it follows a group of friends who are young liberal intellectuals who are drinking and having a grand old time. And then they watch this thing happen and they go, oh no, oh dear. So I'm really excited because I was cast in the play. So I'm very pleased. I'm going to be playing the role of Boz, January 12th through 27th. It's going to be great. St. Mark's Players is a great local community theater. There's actually a network of community theaters here in DC. People don't realize that DC is actually a really great theater town, all right? New York is like here, and DC is like here, and then LA is not a theater town at all. LA is a film and movie town. New York, though, is cutthroat, right? New York is brutal. New York, you go to a play, and once the play is done, those actors say, I gotta get home. I have a job, right? Like, they need to go. They're getting a drink. This is work. In DC, this is a more engaging culture. I know the actors. I see them on the streets of DC. It's weird because I've seen plays in the same theater that President Lincoln saw his last play in, and that was really cool. But it's that kind of intimacy that we have here in DC with the theater community. But there are probably about 20 or 30 small local theaters that compete and that, for local awards and things like that. So there's a very strong and vibrant community of theater goers in the area. And then we also have this very high quality, top-notch echelon where you have the National Shakespeare Theater, the National Theater, you have the Shakespeare Theater, Woolly Mammoth, the Arena Stage for the American Performing Arts Center, just a lot of really top-notch theaters that are internationally known. So you have all of this stuff happening right here. If you are unfamiliar with the DC theater scene, I would encourage you to check it out. You can start by Googling DC theater scene, and everything will come up. Back to the news. Last story. I'm going to take a short break after this, but I do want to talk. I said I was going to talk about no more political stories, and that's a lie because I said 5 minutes, and now I'm back. But I want to talk about sexual harassment. We've been dealing with sexual harassment now for a while, right? It started with Harvey Weinstein. It didn't start with Harvey Weinstein. Okay, let me back up my phraseology. The current conversation started with Donald Trump and the Access Hollywood tape. From there, we had the Women's March, where they were mad as hell and they were not going to take it anymore. And then you had a series of accusations that came out with the Weinstein, which was a product of Ronan Farrow, who is Mia Farrow's daughter, whose husband or ex-husband or whatever has been sexually abusing their child, and allegedly, and so that whole family has been just all kinds of turmoil. Anyway, Rowan, the son, wrote this long expose about Harvey Weinstein, got it published, and now all of Hollywood has been turned upside down. Everybody is yes, 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 and my favorite quote, my absolute favorite quote, was from Woody Allen, who says, "Well, I hope this doesn't start a witch hunt." To which I say, let the witch hunt happen. Bring it. And now what's happened is that a lot of other people have been accused of things. You have, most recently Louis C.K., who has been accused. You have a lot of other Hollywood directors who have been accused of things. You have powerful corporate moguls. The former head of, I think it was NPR, was actually accused and just resigned. So this is affecting industries, not just Hollywood, but all media industries, business, and now, or looking at this, woman accuses Alabama Senate candidate of sexual contact when she was 14. The reason I'm reading this one in particular, and the reason that I want to touch on this, is because this is a problem that cannot be allowed to happen. This is something that we cannot just shrug our shoulders to. There is a gentleman who is running for the United States Senate, one of the most powerful seats in the country. He has 1% of all of the power of the U.S. government, right? That the Senate is. Mr. Roy Moore is former Alabama Chief Justice, and now he's running for United States Senate. And an accusation has come out that says he had sexual contact with a woman when she was 14, and he was a 32-year-old district attorney. Now, Moore has denied the allegations. Quote, "These allegations are completely false and are a desperate political attack by the National Democratic Party and the Washington Post on this campaign. Judge Roy Moore has endured the most outlandish attacks on any candidate in modern political arena, but in the story in today's Washington Post alleging sexual impropriety takes the cake. There is nothing believable about this at all," is the standard line that has been thrown around in American politics for too long. When the Anita Hill hearings were happening in the 1990s, these were the same issues. They said that Clarence Thomas forced her to talk about bestiality and watch porn and was inappropriately harassing her and moving on her and all of these things. And she said, no, this isn't true. This isn't good, right? I'm not going to allow this. She testified in front of the Senate during his confirmation hearings so he could be on the Supreme Court. And she told what happened. And her story was corroborated. And the world turned on her. One senator called her a little bit slutty and a little bit nutty. He has since apologized. But what we have is blanket denial. It's the Shaggy defense is what it is, right? It wasn't me, right? We have blanket denial in the face of actual evidence, in the face of actual proof, again and again and again. We see people do bad things. We say, this person is doing bad things. Can the law protect us? And then the law says, well, what do you say, sir? And he says, wasn't me. And everybody shrugs their shoulders and goes away. We're done with that. As a culture, as a people, as a country, we are done allowing evil to be propagated through our ranks. When we see it, we will address it. When we see it and we call it out, we will put a stop to it. So, what I am calling for is a complete and thorough investigation of Mr. Roy Moore. I think we should dig up everything in his past, up until his present, and make him hold himself accountable to who he is. Not only because he was a politician. He is a politician. Not only, but also because he was a former judge. He is the person whose values and whose sense of morality hung people's lives and deaths. And so if we are looking at him and the hypocrisy, the potential hypocrisy of a person who is, on the one hand, sentencing pedophiles and murderers and rapists and all kinds of criminals, and on the other hand, is a perpetrator, is a predator, we have not just a lapse in judgment on his part, but if we allow this to continue and if we allow this to infest the United States Senate, then we have a lapse in judgment on the part of America. But the best way to clear this up and the best way to get to the bottom is just like we did with Harvey Weinstein. If there are others who know something, who have anything that they would like to add to the conversation, please just let us know. Just come out, share. If you would like to email me directly, that would be fantastic. You can email ivanedward.dc@gmail.com. I would love to hear your stories and share those with the Washington Post and or the District Attorney's Office. But otherwise, please, if you know something, go forward, be brave, be confident that you are going to be listened to, that we are trying our best as a society to believe you, and we are going to move forward so that this stops happening in our people. All right, 3-6 Nation Radio, we're going to come back. We're going to give you a few minutes, catch your breath, focus on yourselves. We're going to lighten the mood. We're going to talk about fun things like brain damage and football. Get out of here. No more tragedy. Everything is happy. 3-6 Nation Radio.
If you can play, you can play.
If you can play, you can play.
If you can play, you can play.
We are all
Champions.
We are all
Red Hawks.
Red Hawk
For life.
Our staff, coaches, and student athletes welcome students of all races, religions, genders, sexual orientation, and national origin. We advocate and support the LGBTQ community.
We play.
Together.
We win together.
If you can play,
You can play.
At Montclair State University, if you can play, you can play.
If you can play,
you can play.
If you can play, you can play.
Come on, hustle, 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 hustle. Get your head in the game. Come on.
are you setting the right example for your kids?
Are you even trying? The ball's down there. What are you doing? You need to get some confidence.
Come on, hustle up, get up there.
Reviewing last year, ad revenue has declined 15%.
Come on, get your head on straight.
Before your child's next game, ask yourself, how would you like it if they copied your behavior?
There are many ways which we can improve.
That's for sure. You need to get some confidence.
Positive Coaching Alliance has valuable tips and tools to help our kids perform their best while keeping sports enjoyable for everyone. Their development zone is a great resource for parents like us. Positive Coaching Alliance, creating better athletes, better people. Learn more at positivecoach.org/Fox Sports.
Pop quiz! What does Milli Vanilli and Garth Brooks have in common? I never thought I'd be talking about Garth Brooks. I'm not a country music fan. The one country music artist that I knew and listened to when I was 19, a friend of mine sent me a song by a gentleman whose name was Brad Paisley. Apparently he's a thing. The song was called Make a Mistake on Me. I did. I'm sorry. I was done with country music. I love you, Heather. I'm sorry. It's a joke. Garth Brooks at the Country Music Awards last night was accused of lip syncing. Now, this happens, right? We have, I don't know how many times we have to get all up in our, our panties in a bunch? How many times we just have to lose our minds when we are lied to? But there was nothing worse, okay? Not when our president lies. Not when our pastors lie. But when you have a performer on national television look you in the eye and sing, and they are not singing at all? It's an audio track. They are liars, and how dare them? We will get them. So apparently Garth Brooks has been slammed for lip syncing at the 2017 Country Music Awards. And he won Artist of the Year, right? He was like honored at the thing. Everybody loves him. This is not like Ashley Simpson who just like walks off SNL stage. This is Garth, Country Music Brooks, who just getting dressed down to. And they asked him why. This is his response. We're in the middle of 12 shows in 10 days. Not 10 shows in 12 days. 12 shows in 10 days, all right? We did a game time call on whether to sing the track or lip sync, and we decided to lip sync. My voice just isn't there anymore, and you want to represent country music the best you can. I think that is a fantastic explanation. Do you realize that he has been on tour for almost 3 years straight? He has done 383 shows running, just with this tour that he's currently on with him and Trisha Yearwood. Is that a person? Is that her name? It is Trisha Yearwood. They started in 2014. They have been doing show after show after show. I don't know if anybody out there is a professional anythinger, but if you yell a lot, if you sing a lot, and that's the thing that you do, you got to take a break. You have to. Doing 12 shows in 10 days means he performed a full concert more than once a day. More than once a day. And he came to this thing, and it's an award show, and he was tired, and he said, honestly, like, it's not about me, it's about the show. We can do this one time, have the track come in here, everybody's having a good time. It's like karaoke, honestly. It's like karaoke for an event honoring great music stars. And apparently that is not acceptable. So I would like to ask a favor. If you're a country music fan out in the world, can you please give Garth Brooks a little bit of slack? All right? He doesn't need this. All right? There's too much anger and there's too much animosity. If we could just look at him and say, hey, buddy, we love what you're doing. Keep it up. Take the night off. That's all he's asking for. That's all he wants. All right. Fun news. I debated whether or not I wanted to share this. All right? And I will say, if there are young children listening, you might want to plug their ears because it's about religion. But this is the headline. I'll read it directly. Celebrity pastor demands footage of him reviving a parishioner's erection be aired on television. Yeah, it's exactly what it sounds like. You gentlemen, the Lord works in mysterious ways. There was a gentleman, he was a pastor, and he was doing some healing, and he raised one of his parishioners from the dead, as it were. There was a wife who had been starving. She was thirsty, and the pastor provided water, if you will. But South African TV would not allow it. Let me read this story. Pastor Mumboro Motoswengeneng is now planning a march on South Africa's Soweto TV station to protest about his weekly show being canceled because they refused to air during a ceremony a newly found virility that the Lord had provided. And they wanted him to have sex with his grateful wife in front of a film crew. And the television station said, no, that's not excited. Quote, the husband was excited that he got his erection back, even offered to pay me, he told Sunday World. And then their wife came to church a while ago and complained that although she was blessed with 3 children and suffered And she got a promotion at work. She was sex-starved because her husband suffered from erectile dysfunction. Well, I went there, entered their bedroom, and asked them to put their hands on their private parts, and I prayed for them, and the husband was immediately healed. So, congratulations to the family. I'm very pleased. The wife, Thabizel, says, my husband got his erection back, and when he came back from outside to call the crew to film our testimony, we were already having sex. Well, we just couldn't wait, as it had been a long time. I apologize to the pastor, because that was kind of embarrassing. Pastor Mboro has blurred out the sex for his TV show, and claims that the testimony of the couple is no more pornographic than other programs on the station. Which, he has a point. If you've ever seen, well, I don't know if he has a point. I've never seen South African television, but I have seen HBO, and I will tell you, if there was a miracle where pastor reached down and like, and then all of a sudden the parishioners got horny and started having sex, that would be an HBO show. That would be its own, real Christian sex with Pastor Mboro. So, good for him. Good for him for standing up and protesting. I think our culture of protest and activism is spreading all over the world. Maybe we're picking up more of it. Maybe this has been going on, and we're only picking it up now. But congratulations to the family for resolving all of their marital issues. I'm really pleased. Fun times. Football. The National Football Association has a problem. Mr. Bob Costa, who you may, if you have ever listened to sports before, have heard his voice. He sounds like the announcer to every sports thing ever, because he is. Mr. Bob Costa said that football is in serious trouble right now because it is a sport that destroys people's brains. Now, I wish Monica were here right now. I would love to sit down and talk to her about this. I know that CTE has come up a couple times. The reason that I bring it up today is because Mr. Aaron Hernandez, who played for the New England Patriots, he was a 27-year-old star running back and convicted murderer. He ended up shooting his girlfriend and then hiding her body and then convicted. And then he hangs himself while he's in jail. The autopsy postmortem came back. He had an unusually severe case of CTE. In fact, quote, Aaron Hernandez suffered from the most severe CTE ever found in a person his age. Now, this brings us a very interesting question, which is, where does the line of culpability stand? CTE, if you're not familiar with it, is a condition whereby, because of repeated blows to the head, you develop concussions, microscopic concussions. They're not the big kind, but the way that my hand is going to be bruised tomorrow, your brain becomes bruised, and these microscopic blood vessels burst all over your head, deteriorate it, and it starts to break down like tenderized meat. Well, it's been linked to dementia, violence, homicidal rage, loss of motor function, just all of the worst possible things. And the scary part is, if you've not known, the scary part is that the people who are experiencing this realize that they can think properly, but they can't control, right? It would be like being afraid at something that you don't know. Like you're watching a movie and you are afraid and you can feel your heart pounding and you can't stop it, even though you know it's a movie, it's not real. Except for these people, their brain has started to deteriorate, and so it's causing them to rage and fight and be violent. And these are already big and powerful and violent people, and they are out of their mind, and they are desperate to try to control this, to try to stop it, and they can't, because their brain won't let them. The brain doesn't work properly. Now, the Aaron Hernandez situation is tragic. Number one, because there was a young woman who died. Number two, because there was a young man whose brain was so destroyed by this sport that he killed another person, a woman. And number three, the NFL apparently has known about the problems with CTE for a lot longer than they have said anything. And they haven't told anybody because it is very likely that it will shut down the sport of football. right? I mean, what parent is going to put your kid in Pee Wee football knowing that they're starting like brain damage, like on purpose? Like, why would you purposely give your kid brain damage? Like, but maybe he's 1 in a million. Yeah, but he's definitely going to get brain damage. Like, but that though. Like, it's your choice. Like, I mean, let him try out for baseball. He's 1 in a million at that too, and you can not get brain damage. Or you can get brain damage, either way. And I keep saying brain damage because I don't think people realize when I say CTE, I don't mean some like, oh, it's some weird disease. It's just brain damage. It's like severe internal bleeding that causes deterioration and brain damage, and that is unacceptable. So Aaron Hernandez has the most severe CTE ever found in a person his age. But I would really be interested to know about Mr. Owenthal James Simpson. Because he had a similar trajectory. He was this big football star, he got pounded a lot, then he got out of it, and then he went insane. His brain deteriorated, and then he wound up in jail. And then after he was acquitted of the murders, and I don't have to be more specific, there's movies, go watch them. After he's acquitted of the murders, he holds up a casino because they have his ring or something. Like, guy's lost his mind. I think, and OJ, if you're listening, I love you. If you're listening, this is the defense that you should make, okay? 1, you were part of a corporation and you were a product of that corporation. They gave you a lot, but then they let you, without your knowledge or consent, they let you do this thing that destroyed your mind, your ability to think and function. Your life, because of that, was multiple times destroyed. Right? I'm not saying anything about whether or not you killed this woman because you killed this woman. What I'm saying is that you are unable to live your life properly. And you've gone to jail multiple times because of your inability to function normally in society because you have brain damage. You are not competent, no offense, you are not competent to stand trial. And so all of the proceedings and all of the things that happened, I think you should sue the NFL for everything that you have lost, and pain and suffering, and wrongful death, and anything else that we can come up with. I just think you should sue the NFL, right? I mean, everybody would be for it. You've got the pro-America, I say that with quotes, pro-America side of the protesters who are like, we gotta protest the NFL, but not watching it anymore. And then you have those who are saying, hey, the NFL has been very irresponsible treating black people like inmates, Bob McNair, treating black people like inmates and commodities for a very long time. We're not going to support this anymore. And so they're not watching it. And so suddenly everybody's just kind of drifting away. There's enough anger out there. I think it could float. I'm not gonna recommend you any lawyers, but you give me a call. I have some names. Just call me. That's all I'm saying. Just call me if you're listening. If you're not listening, but you are a friend of O.J. Simpson and you can get this to him, do so. If you know somebody who like went to college with him, that would be fantastic. I would love to be able to put together a legal defense for Mr. Simpson as we sue the NFL. I think there would be nothing more fun in the world except for maybe, I don't know, being president. Right? That would be great. Or no, being a Supreme Court justice would be the most fun thing ever. Just being able to say, like, this is wrong. You're wrong. This is wrong. All right. I want to talk a couple more things. There's some fun things that are happening on the horizon that are coming up. Mr. Jared Huffman, though. I read this morning, and I was very pleased. I actually wrote his staff an email. Mr. Jared Huffman, representing the 2nd District of California. It's Eureka, Arcata area. The 2nd District of California is a beautiful, beautiful place. It's Northern California, probably 3 to 4 hours north of San Francisco, okay? It's so far north, they kind of consider themselves their own little sub-Oregon. It's beautiful, it's on the water. Eureka and Arcata are right on the water. And Mr. Jared Huffman is from there. It's a very business-minded town. I've gone there and done lectures. He came out today. Not regarding any gender or sex thing. Something far more meaningful. Excuse me. Whatever, I said it. Something far more personal. He came out as an atheist. Oh. He didn't come out as an atheist. I said that. He came out as a humanist, kind of agnostic, maybe atheist. It wasn't a firm stand. But he came out as not believing in God, probably. Possibly. Probably. Which is crazy because that does not happen in politics. The one thing that middle America hates more than communists are atheists. And for good reason. They spell atheism with an A and a T. It's unacceptable. Now, I'm very proud of Mr. Huffman for coming out, right? I'm very proud of him for taking this stand for two reasons. Number one, we need legislatures, as I started this entire program talking about, we need people who are running things from various and diverse points of view. There have been other non-religious congresspeople. He is not the first. He says his morality and his drive, his philosophy, is we're all here working together to make a beautiful and just world. That's his goal. That's what he's trying for. He thinks that appealing to our sense of commonality and the fact that we are all Americans, right? First Amendment talks about a separation of church and state, no establishing of religion or preventing any kind of religion, like you stay over there and you stay over there. Good for him. He's gonna, I really believe that he is doing a very brave thing. I think it's right, but I think it's brave. And the reason that it's brave is because he made himself public enemy number one for 85 million evangelical Christians. Here's the problem with Mr. Huffman's point of view. If Mr. Huffman had come out and said that he was a... Let's say we were having dinner with Mr. Huffman, and it was a great 4-hour dinner, and at the end of the night, we stand up, and I shake his hand, and I say, hey, listen, it's been a pleasure meeting you. And he says, thank you, it was a pleasure meeting you too, comrade. That says something about him, right? It says, oh no. And he doesn't have to come out and say, like, I'm a communist, but he just threw that down there. Like we're comrades. Like this is Soviet Russia. And from an evangelical Christian's point of view, calling yourself an atheist or an agnostic or a humanist, is that equivalent? And it is not just a difference of opinion politically, or these are my religious points of views, and I'll keep my personal point of views over here. My political, my religious, well, it's not like that. You have a group of people who are very much convinced that their responsibility as good Americans is to build a country based on a moral foundation. And this moral foundation for them is the Bible. And if you are not building a moral foundation that is built on the Bible, you are trying to corrupt their perfect society, right? When you see these conversations about what are we going to tell our children and how do we combat this, and they are intolerant of multiple points of view, not because they have some kind of hatred towards Mr. Huffman himself, but because they believe that his worldview and his ideology is destructive. They believe that it is toxic and it will kill their children and it will destroy their economy and it will break everything down because it's unnatural and it's wrong. If you are in that camp and you are a little nervous about Mr. Huffman, let me say a couple things. Number one, he's not trying to come after you. He's okay. He's a good guy. He just believes that we could work together. Listen to him, talk to him, don't attack him, don't send him hate mail, all right? Reach out, say, hey, what do you believe, Mr. Huffman? Find out, okay? Number two, the best thing that we can do to protect religious liberty, the very best thing, is by keeping our religion over here and our politics over here. One of the big arguments that people were talking about was Obama's a secret Muslim going to put Sharia law on all the birthers, right? The reason why everybody was afraid of Sharia law, I wasn't. I know the Constitution. Separation of church and state. No, the reason why people were afraid of Sharia law is because that's kind of their goal. They want to institute a religion, but not make it official, but they want the laws based off of this set of morality. Christian law, Sharia law. They thought Obama was going to try to come in and do what they were trying to do. That's really dangerous because for the exact reason they were afraid. If you have someone with an opposite worldview of yours who will come in and change all the rules so that they apply to this set of beliefs, they will attack yours, necessarily. If you want to protect your beliefs, you don't do so by enshrining them in law. You do so by making the law create spaces for these people to exist safely. That's you, that's your neighbor, that's Mr. Rand Paul, who should not have gotten beat up by his shrub-loving neighbor. That is every person we've talked about today. Everybody who believes something is allowed to come to the table. When we talk about safe spaces and campuses, and I think a lot of college students don't understand this, when we talk about safe spaces, this isn't a place where you are free from attack. Okay? This is not a place where you can come and feel warm and cuddly. When I go to my dojo, my karate gym, that is a safe place, not because we don't fight, but because I know that nobody is trying to kill me. I know that we are going to engage and we are going to clash. That's what makes us strong. That's what makes us better. If we are going to come together as a nation, we have to say this is a safe place, in that we can attack one another on an ideological front and not have that anything to do with the love and the respect and the care that we have mutually for each other as citizens, as people, right? I think Mr. Huffman is a perfect example of an alternate way of looking at the world, seeing himself in this place and saying, I can add my 2 cents, I can add my perspective, because I think there are a lot of people who are not represented. And I think if I add this, it will help us come to a better place of understanding. Mr. Huffman, I salute you. 3-6 Radio, we're gonna drop out. We're gonna come back to close it. One more commercial. Jeremy, can you give me a quick dropout, one commercial? I'm gonna change my face out. I'm gonna make everything different. We're gonna come back. Where's the smoke machine?
USAA gives me the peace of mind and the security just like the Marines did. At one point I did change to a different company with car insurance and I was not happy with the customer service. We have switched back over and we feel like we're back home now.
The process through USAA is so effortless that you feel like you're a part of the family.
I love that I can pass a membership to my children and that they can be protected. We're the Williams family and we're USAA members for life.
Call USAA today to talk about your insurance needs.
If you can play, you can play.
If you can play,
You can play.
If you can play, you can play.
We are all
champions.
We are all
Red Hawks.
Red Hawk.
For life.
Our staff, coaches, and student athletes welcome students of all races, religions.
All right, and we're back. You were here with Ivan. So 3-6 Nation. What we have coming up next, we have Anthony Oakes with Thursday Night Tea. So stay tuned. Great show. Shout out to Monica. Can't wait to get back. Can't wait to see you. So 3-6 Nation out.